The next thing that we're going to do in the game is we're going to add in a timer system. So it's going to count the length of time that it takes the car to complete a lap. So how are we going to do that? There's a few different ways we can do it. There is an inbuilt timer within Scratch, which is inside sensing. But to do it, we're just going to create our own version of the timer. So again, we're going to do as a variable. I'm going to make it a variable, and I'm going to call it timer just for now. I might change it after, but that's all I'm going to call it right now. And I'm going to say OK. So now we've got another variable called timer, and you can see at the minute that it is displaying on the screen. Again, we can turn those off and on as we want. Useful to have them on so we can actually see the changes that are occurring to the variables throughout the program. But whenever it comes to the actual game, you might decide you want to turn off the car speed and have the timer still showing, or you could turn it off as well. So now we've created a variable called timer, but if you see, whenever we green flag it and start playing, at the minute it's not counting, so we have to program it to actually count. And to do that, again, we're going to put it on the car script. We're going to have a new control block. I'm going to say when green flag is clicked, when green flag is clicked, control at all times during the program, I want this to change, the timer to change. So how are we actually going to do that? Again, we're going to go to data, and we're going to change timer by 1. Now, it's not quite there yet, but let's see what happens. Whenever we press the green flag now, you'll see the timer counts up. But as you can see, it's counting up much too quick. So how can we actually make it count up in seconds? Now within Scratch, and we've used it before, we have got something called a wait, which is the wait 1 second. So if we pop that in here, green flag that, you'll see it's now counting up in 1 second. Obviously, to get rid of that, now we want to go back to data again, and we want to say whenever the game starts, we want to reset the timer. So I want to, whenever the green flag is clicked, I want to say set timer to 0. And that's okay for the minute, but we're obviously going to have to change that later in the program. So now whenever the green flag clicks, it starts counting up, which is useful. Now what we're going to want to happen is whenever the car gets back to the start, we're going to have some sort of finish line so that the timer will stop or reset or whatever we decide to do whenever the car reaches the finish line. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new sprite called finish line. To do that, again, we're going to paint a new sprite, and not too worried about what it actually looks like. I'm just going to grab the paintbrush. Where is my, change the size of it, and just draw a small white line. Now that's probably a bit too big, so I'm just going to rub out part of it, and that's fine for now. We can make it look better after, but what I'm going to do now is just going to click on that, and I'm going to drag that up onto the track. So that looks okay there. It is a start line. This green flag, you can see the car actually starts, so the car starts there, so that's fine. It's actually right on the line, which is perfect. And what we're going to want to happen is, what usually happens within a race is whenever the car touches the start line, it will reset. That will be the lap time. So again, I'm going to go back into my scripts. Let's green flag and see what happens. I'm going to click on the car again so we can see the code. Green flag at the time is counting. Car's going to go around the track. When it gets back to about here, we want to reset the time. We might want to reset the time, or we might want to actually catch the time. So there's a different way we can do that as well, and capture lap time, which we'll do now. And this code is going to go on to the actual, can go on the car or can go on the line. I'm going to put it on the line so I know whenever I'm dealing with the timer, the lap times or whatever, I'm going to be dealing with the finishing line sprite. Should actually change that as well. By going on info and calling it finish line or start line, maybe depends what way you look at it. That's fine for now, and I'm going to go back now to my sprites. I'm going to click on this. So what I want to have now is whenever the car interacts with the finish line, I want the time to be adjusted. So to do that, what we need to do now is I've got that. So again, events, when the green flag is clicked, so when the game is running. Control forever, we want this always to be checking for the car to touch it. And again, it's going to be forever if. And sensing, we want to know if it's touching the red car. And whenever that happens, we want to reset the timer for now. We might put a catch in to actually catch the lap time, but for now we just want to reset the timer. And to do that, we go back to data, we go to variables, and we want to set timer to 0. So that's green flag that. So you can see at the minute now the car is on the finish line, and it is changing, but because it's constantly on the finish line, it's just staying at 0 until the car leaves the finish line. Then it starts counting up, which is actually quite a good solution. The problem is if the car turns around at the minute and goes back, it's going to reset to 0. So it's still pretty easy for the car to cheat at the minute, but we'll look at that in the next video on how we can stop that. But let's just assume for now people aren't going to cheat in the game. Let's stop that. Let's go back to this, and for this I'm going to create another variable called lap time, which is going to display the score of the previous lap, so the user can keep on trying to improve their score or their time. I'm going to make a variable, I'm going to call it lap time. I'm going to click on OK. And before I set the timer to 0, so on here again, this is triggered by the car actually touching the line. I don't want to set lap time to 0, I want to set lap time to, not the wrong one, sorry, I want to set lap time to the current time and timer before it's reset to 0. And what this will do now, if I just move this up here out of the way, green flag it, you can see that the car is actually moving around the track. And whenever we get back up to about here and we finish off the lap, what's going to happen now is lap time is equal to 0 at the minute, but whenever we touch the line, it's going to update. Now you can see what happened. It did briefly change there, but then it went straight back to 0 because it's happening so quick. You can see it just flashes there. And to stop that again, we're going to have to use this idea of wait 1 second. And I'm going to put that inside events. I'm going to say control, and I'm going to use a wait. Where is it? It's up here. And I'm not going to do 0.1, I'm going to do 1 second, I'm going to do 0.3 of a second. And now if a green flag that, same idea, you'll see the car moves now, timer's counting up, we go around the track, come back to this part, we drive along, and you can see it did reset there for a bit longer, so I'm going to change the wait to 2 seconds. There are loads of different ways we can do this, it's quite a simple way of doing it. And this means now, whenever we get back up to here, the car is going to be travelling, and it's going to, sorry, I've put it in the wrong place, that's what happened. Or I've changed the wrong one. That should be wait 1 second, yeah. And that should be on the finish line. 0.3 seconds no good, so let's try 1 second. Let's green flag that. Car starts, timer starts counting up. Lap time is set to 0. Time we get back around to here, what should happen now is the timer should reset, but you can see it catches the time for the previous lap. Obviously I've cheated and dragged it around, but you get the idea. Now you will notice if we just do it again, watch the timer closely. It stays at 12 for a bit too long, then it resets. So we need to change the value of timer to a sensible. So 2 seconds is, let's try 0.6 and see how that works. Again, you can see it's going to start counting up now. And then as I move across, you can see that's a better way for it to actually work now at the minute. So there we've added a very simple lap time check and a timer to the game, which means the user can play the game and see their score for each lap, their time for each lap, and then try and improve that time in the next lap. Again, not great at the minute because the car, whenever it starts here, but there's nothing to stop the car at the minute from turning around and going back and doing this to cheat the lap time. So we'll look at how we can change that in the next video.